Today I'm going to tell you my story of how I became a senior developer within 2 years and let you know some of the tactics and strategies I used to make that possible. Let me begin at the start of my story and tell you why lessons that I garnished from having completed a carpentry apprenticeship and having been an entrepreneur uh, drastically expedited my transition into tech and being able to be employed as a senior developer. So, when I first got started in my construction career, which I was in for over 13 years, I kind of sucked. I was really useless at it. I was kind of like depressing. I wasn't really enjoying myself and basically had no idea how to resolve this or how to make myself better. And ultimately just assumed that I was kind of useless and, this was kind of how things were going to be. And this left me in a place where I was really unmotivated and kind of like wouldn't put in a lot of effort. So at this point in my life, the way I see myself and the way others see me is kind of as lazy and useless. Uh, at some point, I kind of, got a little bit better over time, and I made the choice that, it'd probably be worth me committing to a career path. So I approached my employer about doing a apprenticeship, and luckily they agreed to do that. So I started going through my apprenticeship, and at this point things really started to come together for me. So the first thing is having trained teachers and people that know how to educate you was like, this may seem obvious, but was a game changer. And then all these things that seemed like a complete mystery to me were explained to me in a way that allowed me to start being able to produce results that I didn't think were possible for me. Um, Partway through my apprenticeship, I also started to work with a new gentleman that started to work at the same company as myself, who kind of became a bit of a mentor for me. And he saw that the environment and the current people at the environment weren't really well suited to support me, and he developed a bit of a soft spot. And through this, he went out of his way to sort of point out some of my gaps and close this for me. And this was one of the first experiences I had in life where someone with the right attitude and the right kind of eye can really close your gaps and move things along. So fast forward to the end of my apprenticeship. By the end of this, I'd gathered a lot of confidence and a lot more experience, and it was a complete 180 from where I was before I had done that. And having learnt that, like, what I thought was possible and what I thought I could do, the program was set up in such a way that, like, I could do 60, 70, 80% more than what I thought was possible. And this really stuck with me. So this was a very important lesson that came out of my apprenticeship, that, there's a lot more you can do when you think you're a beginner than may seem obvious based on the challenges you confront in front of you, if you have the right support and people around you. The next thing, so with all that confidence, I went straight out and started my own business. And this is where my next mentor that I had been with really contributed to me. So where many people who had just finished their apprenticeship went out and either continued to work with their current employer or went on to do, similar kind of contracting work that their existing employer had done, I went out straight away and started taking on commercial projects in multi-story buildings and, contract values above, well into the six figures. And this, this is straight out of finishing my apprenticeship, straight out of school. And I was able to do this because as I was approaching these jobs and needing to know what to do to break them down in terms of the technical challenges, I had a support network that I'd built up through my apprenticeship. And I also had on the business and mentoring side, which this current mentor really added to me, is like how to price and how to negotiate and how to solve all of these kind of business sides of the problem. So I went through, and that kept carrying on for a while, and things were starting to really turn around for me, and life was improving. At this point in my life, I met another really influential mentor and person in my life, and the thing that they taught me was how to build relationships and I guess what you would call networking, but I feel like networking is not the right word, and maybe I'll do another video on what I think the differences between networking and relationship building is. But ultimately through this, he taught me how to reach out to people, how to connect, and how to sort of, in a way that like I was building my own tribe. And through this led to me being able to, even increasing further and land contracts that were just out of my wildest dreams. Things like working on Chevron projects that were like not only extremely lucrative, but like a really great challenge. Then, even though like in some ways, this was challenging, I was enjoying the growth. After this kind of rapid rise and having landed these really great contracts that had been I'd been connected with through this, I realized that I didn't want to stay in construction, and that this wasn't, that now that I knew this about myself, that, through good relationship building, through getting the right coaching and direction and things like that, that like you could grow at a speed that was, not considered, what was actually, spoken about as the way to get ahead. So for that, I shut down my company, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just sort of settled into project managing for other people's companies to sort of reflect on what the transition was. And while I was working at another company, I got the idea that, I could add efficiencies to my job if I started building some software to automate some of those processes. Now, when I was a teenager, I was like always had an interest in computers and had taught myself to code a little bit. So I was like, I could probably do this again. So I started doing that, and I quickly realized that, this is a fairly challenging skill, and, it's not something that I'm purely going to be able to pick up on my own. So taking all the lessons that I'd learned to date, I now, I went out to some local meetups and heard some developers give some talks. And one of the developers on one of the nights that I went out was giving a talk about something I was struggling with particularly with and having a lot of trouble with. So I reached out to this developer by emails a few days later and asked them if they would be interested in coaching me, and I would pay them for their time. Now, they got back to me and they said they were interested, and they had also told me that, had I asked them just, to work on my app, they would have had no interest at all. But the fact that they were actually excited to be given the opportunity to sort of mentor someone. So I went on this for a while, and basically 7-8 months later, I'd worked with this person weekly, developed a bunch of coding skills, and had, kind of finished my app. But through this relationship, at this time, he mentioned to me that these things called bootcamps had gotten started, and that a friend he knew had just done one and had gotten a job at Twitter. And I was like, this sounds amazing. I've been loving building this software, and I think what I need, like, this is what I want to do. I want to transition into becoming a software developer. And knowing that, in these early days, boot camps were getting amazing results, I was super excited to get involved in this. So I shut down, the rest of my life and organized to fly over to the States and take a boot camp in Chicago. Now, when I was there, I then wanted to double down and sort of apply a lot of the lessons that I had learned. So whilst doing the main curriculum of the boot camp, although it was challenging, I kind of had a bit of a head start because I had previous coaching, and I wanted to really connect with all my mentors and all the community that was involved with this school. So what I did, I realized that if I could, really spend my time wisely and demonstrate my eagerness and enthusiasm, that, I'd be able to build really strong relationships and find the people that were, most invested in my success and felt, a natural connection with. So often once I'd finished the day's work, I would ask them for can you give me an extra challenge? Can you give me something else to push me through? And being this eager and looking to continuously stretch myself, a lot of the people there who were teaching and mentoring, felt very excited to see my progress and be a part of that. And this kind of was a huge base and a foundation that I knew I would need as I transitioned into this new career. Based on my experience of having brilliant teachers and knowledgeable people around you, how much that can truly accelerate your growth in your whatever field or career it is. So I had decided at this point that I wanted to stay in North America for a few years and get my experience there instead of going straight home to Australia. So I had already got a working holiday visa for Vancouver and moved straight to Vancouver after this boot camp. So when I landed there, I didn't really know anyone. I had one really good friend there who I knew from high school, and another friend who I knew back in Australia who I'd convinced to come chill with me in Canada for a bit. But in terms of industry and career, I knew nobody. But I took what I'd learned from running my own business and started to sort of get out there and look for work. Now, I specifically in the beginning chose to get into contracting, and I don't think like the things I'm about to say require you to choose contracting to take advantage of this in your career. You could definitely just go work in a regular position at a company, but I'll explain some of the benefits I got from choosing contracting. Because I'd already had that experience, had my own business and contracting, that sort of piece of the puzzle was solved. And I knew I just had to get better at software development. But I wanted to continue to create an environment that was just like what I had at the bootcamp, where you have a very difficult challenge and then you have really smart and amazing people around to sort of close your gaps. So the difficult challenge for me right now was real work and real contracts. But I had built up to this point this network of amazing people that would be available to help me. So I'd take on these contracts. I would bill them at like the same level that these people would bill, because it's my opinion, you can charge work out at the level that you can deliver, and you can deliver at the level of your support network. So knowing that, I went out, landed my early contracts, and I would work along, get stuck, and then have them coach me through it. So this went on for a while. So I'm working, digging myself a hole, and then having qualified people dig me out of it. And this drastically accelerated my skill acquisition. And this went on for a little while, and then a new bootcamp started up in Vancouver. And I wanted to take advantage of the fact that teaching is a great way to learn. So I approached the bootcamp and asked them if I could be a teacher there, and I managed to get a job with them, mentoring and being a teacher's assistant. And one of the things that I wanted to do there was, one benefit from, getting not only the questions that arose for me in my day-to-day work, but all these different questions that all these new aspiring software developers had, and having to answer all their questions. I'm really bombarding myself with challenges at this point. And then also, I made a big effort to be as big a positive contribution to all of these people's career growth as I possibly could be, knowing that they were going to go out into the industry and be working at all various tech companies. And I wanted them to remember me and know that, if I ever needed to reach out and find different opportunities, these would be people that would be, feel a connection to me and want to help out. And this eventually came when I decided that I wanted to stay in Canada, and to get my permanent residency, I needed to get my a full-time position. So this is where I went out and I sort of, through the different students that I have at the time, got in contact with one of their companies. And I didn't ask for an interview or a job. What I actually asked for is if I could come in and pair program with their team for a day and just share experiences. And they were super open and excited to do this. I kind of knew a few of the people at the team, so I was going to be able to see what they were doing, and they were going to get some of my ideas and thoughts. And after pairing with them for a day, I realized this was a great company and a great team that I was really excited to be a part. So I approached the CEO and said, "Hey, what would you, here's my situation. I might have to go back to Australia, but if you're willing to employ me and sponsor me, I could stay here and I'll work for you." And he was also very excited about that idea. So that quickly resulted in me working for them. And that's basically where I got employed, and I was employed as a senior developer. So throughout this whole period, I'd never held down a junior development position and went straight into becoming a senior. Now, there was a lot of work and investment that went into that, and I had to learn a lot of things. But ultimately, if you're really eager and ambitious and you build up that right support network and organize your time in such a way that you have the opportunity to grow, this is going to be a huge benefit for you that you're going to be able to take advantage of. One more thing that I'll probably kind of want to highlight here that I've learned, that wasn't part of my experience, but I've learned from being a teacher for the past 6 years, is that many juniors struggle to move through their career, and they're in environments where they're not being supported. And this can be for many reasons. Either they got a job at an early stage startup that doesn't really have seniors. If their organization does have seniors, those seniors may not be that great at teaching. They may not be interested in teaching, or they may have so many responsibilities they just don't have the time or resources to coach and mentor. So it's not always possible that you're going to get the experience and attention that you need on the job. So ultimately, what I would love to get across here is that it really boils back to you to take advantage, like to set things up in such a way that you can grow as fast as you want, and you can take advantage of some of the, you know, the strategies that I employed to move through and grow your career just as easily as I did. So finding, you know, mentors, building those relationships and connecting with your local community, and also like knowing that you can take on opportunities that are outside of your current skill level if your support network is available to you. Something else I'll also touch on that, you know, obviously you can do courses and study and stuff. And I did a lot of that and I still do it to this day and I really appreciate it. But getting a coach and a mentor is of substantial more valuable, not just because of the direct experience and knowledge that they can impart specifically to where you're getting stuck, but because they now become advocates of you. It's very rare that someone's going to spend the time investing in growing your career and then turn around and be like, and not want to see you succeed. So this is like a huge thing, and this can be repeated at every level and every stage of your career. There's always someone who's like 1 or 2 years ahead that you can seek out, connect with, and organize to build a, you know, a mutually beneficial relationship that helps like you grow and build, like, you know, further extend, you know, their contribution to the local industry. So yeah, there you have it. That was kind of my story of how I was able to become a senior developer within 2 years. And I hope that some of these ideas are helpful for you. And if you did find value in this, please like and subscribe.